Hi guys, my name is Grace Mapur and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing us how to draft a basic skirt pattern, pencil skirt pattern rather, and we'll be needing our waist measurements, our hip measurements, our hip depth, and lastly our skirt length. And before we proceed, you'll have to um, divide these measurements into half and quarter. So you have your half waist, your quarter waist, like that for just the hip measurements and the waist measurements. The hip depth and the skirt length, there won't be a need for that. So yeah. So firstly, we are going to get the width of our skirt pattern, which is our half hip plus 1 inches. So that's what I'm doing, getting the half hip measurement plus 1 inches. So yeah, I'm just making sure to get that line. Now I'm going to be connecting the lines from the top to the bottom. Yeah. So after that, that's our skirt pattern width. So the next thing we're going to be doing is to get the midpoint of our pattern. So you measure and then you get the midpoint of the pattern. So just make sure to get the accurate midpoint. Midpoint means you're dividing what you have into two. Yeah. So the next thing you're going to be doing is now drawing a straight line, connecting the midpoint from the top to the bottom. So after doing that, we are going to measure half an inch on both sides of the midpoint, half inch on both sides. You do the same down as well from the top to the bottom. So we measure half inch on both sides. Please ensure that line is on the midpoint. So you measure the same thing down, half inch on both sides. Remember the 1 inch we added to our half hip measurement. Now this is where it's coming from. So we measure that same half inch on both sides, giving us 1 inch in total. So this is for our skirt allowance. So now we are done drawing the lines. The next thing we are going to do is to measure our hip depth measurement, which is 8. Now we are starting that measurement from our top line, which is also our waistline. So you measure half inch and draw the line across to the other side. So now the left side becomes our center front, while the right side is our back, or center back rather. So you name that line your hip depth, your waistline, and then your skirt length, which is also your knee length as well. So yeah. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do now on the center front is to measure our quarter waist measurements on the waistline. So you are measuring it from the left side. You're measuring your quarter waist measurement from the left side, and then you are using a French curve to connect it to the quarter hip measurement, which is, can you see the way I'm placing it? Please ensure to place your French curve properly for a better fitting. For curvy people, you use that curvy part. Then for less curvy people, you can just use the part I used. So yeah, now the next thing you are going to do is to measure half inch away from your quarter waist measurement. Half inch, which is our allowance. So that half inch, now you're connecting it to your allowance. So that's our allowance for the waist side. Now the next thing we are going to do is to measure half an inch from our center front, which is our waist curve, because obviously our waist is not straight, so we have to curve that part of the waist. So After doing that, please ensure you are placing your French curve properly. Now, the next thing we are going to do is for our center back, we are going to do our quarter waist plus 1 inch. Now, this 1 inch is for our back dart. So quarter waist plus 1 inch. We are going to be doing that from, you're going to be measuring your quarter waist now from the right side across to the other side. Remember our center front was from our left, so this is coming from our right. Now I have marked the quarter waist plus 1 inch, and I'm connecting it the same way I did for the front, which is my waist quarter waist measurement plus 1 inch to my quarter hip measurements. So now I'm going to be measuring ½ inch away from that for my allowance. You connect it to that allowance on the midpoint area. So yeah, the next thing we are going to be doing now is to measure our zip allowance. So our zip allowance for this pattern is 2 inches. So we are going to be measuring from the top line, which is our waistline, down to the skirt length. So you measure 2 inches and connect with a straight ruler. Now we are supposed to measure 2 inches as well for the M line, for your skirt hemming. But now our paper is not enough, as you can see. So now we're just going to add that on the fabric. So we're just going to connect the zipper allowance, which is 2 inches, down to the skirt length, and make sure to label your patterns. The next thing we are going to be doing now is to shape our skirts, our basic skirt pattern, into a pencil skirt pattern. Now to do that, we are going to be using a basic measurement of 1.5 inches. You can decide to use 2.5, you can decide to use 3, depending on how tight you want how pencil you want your skirt to be. So, but in this case, I'm going to be using 1.5 inches for the center front. Now I'm just going to be measuring it on only the side, because obviously we cannot shape the center front. And now for the back, okay, I'm going to be connecting it now with a ruler from my hip depth down to the 1.5 I measured. The next thing we are going to be doing is measuring ½ an inch away from our 1.5. Remember the ½ inch allowance that is on the midpoint line. We are going to be replacing it on the newly shaped pencil skirt. So we've replaced our ½ inch. So for the center back now, we are going to be dividing that 1.5 into 2, which is 0.75, because we want to shape the side and also the zipper side for a better snatch, for a better fitting. So we're going to, but this is optional. You can decide to take the 1.5 on just the side, but I like to take it on both sides, which is the zipper part and the side, for a nicer fitting. So I measured away from the 2 inches and then from the side as well. So I'm connecting from my hip depth to the 0.75 on my side, and then I'm marking an ½ inch away from that measurement to my hip depth as well. I'm just replacing the allowance that is there. So the same thing for the zipper part. I'm connecting from my hip depth to the 0.75. Then from that 0.75, you're going to measure back your 2 inches. So you can see that 0.75 is already out. So you connect it back to connect it from your hip depth back to the length. So here is our pencil skirt. Remember, you can decide to use more than 1.5. Just any preference you want is fine, but I'm using 1.5 for the sake of this tutorial. So I'm just cancelling out the allowances that is not needed, because we've shapen and we've replaced the allowance. So the next thing we are going to do now is to create our back dart. How do we do that? Remember, we added 1 inches to our waistline, our quarter waist, right? So that measurement, now we're going to be getting the midpoint, and we are going to be getting the midpoint of our quarter waist measurement plus that 1 inch. You get the midpoint and then you mark. Then you measure half an inch on both sides, which is the 1 inch we added. You get the length of our dart, which is 4 inches. You connect to the midpoint and then you measure the half inch on both sides for the dart. You connect to the dart leg as well. So that's our back dart. So guys, we've come to the end of this video. Just let me know in the comment section if you'd want to see the sewing process of this pattern we've just drafted. And again, if you'd want any tutorial at all, just let me know in the comment section too, so I can put it up. And any questions you would have regarding this tutorial, please let me know in the comment section, and do well to subscribe, like, share. Thank you. See you in my next video. Bye.